All right, we're live. What's up, folks at home? Welcome to another edition of Monday Night Live on the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel. Got a really special guest tonight. JT Kenney is on the other end, man. Appreciate you taking some time out of your evening and sharing it with us.
Yeah, no worries, man. Just got back from, doing my little announcer gig or color analyst that they call me on Major League Fishing's MLF Now on the live streaming stuff. Just got back last night. Been bouncing around, busy today. You know, you guys know how it is. Y'all fish when you're gone from home for 6 or 7 or 8 days in a row. It just seems like everything stacks up. You got a million things you got to do. But just got home a couple of minutes ago, just in time to pop on with you guys.
Heck yeah, man! I love it.
We got to address this first comment right here.
What? We got a comment?
Scott McWaters.
Where's he at?
I mean, we're going to get into this tonight, but right here.
Oh, Scott says he takes bait fuel as a
pre-workout.
For pre-workout.
Nice.
I think that's
you should. I've seen some people do some really weird stuff with it, but pre-workout, I mean, have at it, dude.
Might as well, man. It'll help you get an extra few reps. So, man, yeah, I watched a lot of that tournament. That was a great tournament. We had Spencer on our live stream. It's been like about a month ago, but that was super exciting because it came down to that. I think he caught like a 5. He had 2 5s, I believe, but that 5.5 pounder made the difference. And you know, there were like the top 3 was within a pound of each other or something. It's just amazing how tight those smallmouth tournaments are.
Yeah, man, it is. And if you think about it, like the last regular season event, which was at Lake Champlain, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. By this time in the season, everything starts running together for me. But it was the same way, dude. It was like 1 ounce between first and second, and 6 ounces covered the top 3. Like, it's crazy, and especially when you restart the weight on the championship day, so everybody starts from 0. But man, these guys are getting so good with the technology that's out there. You know, like the active target, you know, the forward-facing sonar. Those guys are able to pin down those fish that normally, you know, you couldn't catch. You know, and of course, we got stuff like, you know, we're going to talk about bait fuel a little bit tonight. Now you got stuff like bait fuel that basically, for lack of a better term, kind of makes them bite it, or at least makes them be interested in it. You know, so I mean, it's exciting to me to see all this different stuff kind of happening at the same time. Technology with the sense and the technology and the electronics. Like, and it's all happening at the same time. And I hate to date myself, but like, you know, I've been in this deal a long time, you know, and I fished my first professional tournament in like 1998, I think, or 1997 or something like that. And it's weird for me because I was always like the young guy and all this, and now I'm the old dude. But like, to see, like, back then, like, I don't care if it was Lake Okeechobee or what a lot of people don't realize, the very first professional tournament I ever fished was a BASS Invitational on Thousand Islands on the St. Lawrence River. That was my very first experience at tournament fishing. You know, a lot of people know me from my wins in Florida and stuff like that, but that was my very first one up there. So I kind of have a cool little place in my heart for that. But just anywhere back when I started, a 20-pound bag was like, you're the freaking man, dude. Mm-hmm. Like you catch 5 4-pounders and like unheard of. And like now it's like, you know,
throwing 4-pounders back.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's absolutely insane. And I do believe that smallmouth fishery up there, we were just talking about, you know, Champlain's starting to get gobies in it. St. Lawrence River's had gobies in it forever. You know, that whole deal, that's a goby deal, why those smallmouth are getting that big. But I'm talking about just the Tuesday nighters on, you know, XYZ Lake and freaking bum wherever, Georgia. You know, it takes 20 pounds to win that in a 3-hour tournament. Like that didn't happen years ago. And it's just all this. And of course you do have some people that are like, you should outlaw that stuff. And you should, you know, you shouldn't be able to do that. Well, you know what? I don't like fishing. I like catching. And if something's going to allow me to catch more bass, or anything for that, I'm a big saltwater fisherman too, or anything for that matter. Like I want that technology, whether it's scent, whether it's forward-facing sonar, whether it's, you know, 360 sonar, whether it's whatever. Like I want that kind of technology, and instead of being pissed off about, like, you know, the young guys coming up kicking your ass and all this kind of stuff, like I embrace it. Like I just got my new boat, and the first thing I was excited about doing was not loading my tackle or doing anything. It was putting the active target on the front. You know what I mean? Like that was the thing I was most excited about. So it's just cool. Like I said, whether it's bait fuel or forward facing sonar or anything in between, it's a cool time to be in the fishing industry right now.
Yeah, I'm usually slightly hesitant of change, especially when there's a big price tag involved. Like we're still sitting on lead acid batteries, and we've been talking about going to lithium forever, but it's just hard to cough that up. But the technology, there's definitely an advantage, you know, not just with the battery technology, but you're talking about forward facing sonar. You got to have it if you're a pro. I mean, if you're making your living, even if you're doing just like regional local stuff, even jackpots, we've seen it make a huge difference over here locally. We're from Cape Girardeau, Missouri area, and we fish over in Southern Illinois a lot. We fish out of 10 boats, like 16-foot aluminum boats. And there's probably, I don't know, like probably 30 to 40% of the boats that we fish against over there in the Wednesday nighters, they've got forward facing sonar on their boats now.
I would probably guess more than that.
It's a lot more. Like the last couple years, you've definitely seen, it doesn't matter what rig you're on, you're going to put forward facing sonar on it, and it plays, man. So if you're fishing for money, if that's your livelihood, you got to embrace that technology and not be stubborn about it, because you're just going to get smashed. I mean, it's kind of like the A rig. You know, there's a lot of people that, well, when there's a winter tournament, they don't want to throw the A rig. Well, you're probably going to be, you know, out of check range most of the time if it's if it's really going on.
No, I agree, and it's kind of funny that you bring that up. And here I go. We've been on for 5 minutes now, and I'm going to piss somebody off. But you know,
go ahead, man. It's all good.
That's what I do. So the people, the industry in general. And I represent some of the people I'm going to throw under the bus right now. If the dude that invented the Alabama rig, which kind of like every bait, it caught him all the time when it first came out, and then it fell into its niche. You know what I mean? Like the wintertime, like that's the wintertime deal. It fell into its niche. Where, you know, any of these, like when the stickworm first came out, you know, the Senko was the first one, and now there's a million of them. The vibrating jig, the chatterbait was the first one. Now there's a million of them. They've all kind of worked 12 months out of the year when they first 2 years they were out, and they fell into this or that. Well, the Alabama rig is exactly kind of what I was going to bring up. Is I know the guy that started it, and I'm going to give you, I'll probably get sidetracked here, but I'm going to give you a little funny story about the Alabama rig, which I made a lot of money on for like a year and a half. But a year before it got popular, Andy Poss came up to me in a Walmart and handed me one and said, dude, you need this. This is going to be a big deal. And of course, I was nice to him. You know, oh, man, wow, that's cool. Oh, wow, man, that looks awesome. And, you know, we talked in Walmart for a while. It was in Alabama or whatever. And when I walked out front of Walmart, I threw it in the trash. I threw the Alabama rig in the trash. I threw his card in the trash. I was like, I don't need that stuff cluttering up my truck. Well, look at me being the dumbass. You know, like a year later, Paul Elias catches 7 million pounds and kicks my ass on, you know, at Gunnersville. You know, and I threw it in the trash. Like, look at me. That's so stupid. But here's the thing about, you were talking about outlawing and big price tag and everybody having it. When it's a little company like that and comes out with something like that, the tournament organizations will outlaw it because it's not backed by a bunch of money. When companies like Lowrance and Garmin and Humminbird come out with something and they sponsor the tournament trails and they do this and they do, that's never going to get outlawed, because that's the tournament organizations would be biting the hand that feeds them to outlaw something like that. Whereas this little dude, Andy Poss, who's a cool dude, by the way, but this little guy comes along, he's not contributing anything to the bottom line of BASS or FLW or, you know, MLF now. Like, he's not contributing anything to that. So they're not gonna do anything, you know, make it bend anything to do that. They're just going to say, yeah, that's ridiculous and you can't do that. And that's exactly what happened. Now, that's not my opinion. My opinion is the Alabama rig is bad for fish, especially when you got one with 5 hooks in it. Mm-hmm. It impales the fish everywhere. And, you know, who knows? Yeah, you let the fish go, but who knows if some kind of, I'm not a biologist, but I'm gonna sound like one for a half a second. Like microorganisms get into those little holes that all the, because you reel one in and it's got, it looks like a bowl of spaghetti. It's got so much hooks wrapped around it and stuff, but it's got a million holes stuck in it. Who knows what gets in there and the fish dies 6 months later. I'll be the first one to admit, I think in bass tournaments, and I've done it my whole life, I make my living in this industry. This industry has been awesome to me. But when we say we have not in the big MLF tournaments, but in every tournament where you bring them in the live well, then we say we have a 99-cent live release rate. I think that's crap. I think there's a delayed mortality. And it's just me. I can have my own opinion, at least for right now in the United States. I can have my own opinion. But I think there's major delayed mortality. Like I really do. And I think the Alabama rig probably had something to do with it. But at the same time, if somebody invites me to go to Gunnersville in January to go fun fishing, I'm bringing an Alabama rig. So maybe.
Well, I mean, to your point on the delayed mortality, go do a ramp on Sunday after a tournament.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen it. I've done this my whole life.
Yeah, or you catch those fish that are just sickly looking, around the release areas. They're, like 4-pounders, but they weigh, 3 pounds or something, got a big head. And they're just,
and I'm not saying that happens to all the fish by any means. I think a lot of them are let go and thrive, but I definitely think at the same time, there's delayed mortality. There is.
I think there's a big movement that as fishermen, we need to take better care of our fish. 100%.
I agree.
Because there's a lot of guys that throw them in a box and don't look at them until 3 o'clock when it comes weigh-in time. Yep. You cut that fish at 6 a.m. and he's been rolling around in there in no water for an hour.
Yeah.
So
and one of the things that gets me too, at like pretty much every full-size bass boat has 2 live wells in them. Why can't we just start having especially like team tournaments and stuff? Why can't we just start making it a 4-fish limit and just you put 2 fish on one side and 2 fish on the other side? Then there's plenty of oxygen, plenty of room, whatever. That's getting way too deep into stuff we don't have to talk about.
I think, so I fish at BFLs on Kentucky Lake just out of the back of the boat, but they did something this year, and I think they did it last year. Not just they made a 3-fish tournament in the summertime, but not just because Kentucky Lake's kind of struggling lately. It is starting to come back, but I think
you were being nice there, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yes, I'm being very optimistic. It's slowly getting better, but I think it's because of the higher water temperatures too. You're stressing out less. It's less stress on the fish, obviously, and you're not putting 5 in there. You're not stressing 5 fish out. You're stressing
3
fish out
or 10.
So I think
with dual live wells.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Two fish in there. A lot of those live wells share your shared water. So
That's true. But I think that's you could say when the water's above a certain temperature, and I don't know what it would be, but maybe you go to a 4-fish or even a 3-fish or something.
Like we've had that discussion on here at length of limiting tournaments in the summertime. Just stop having them. Stop killing the fish populations.
And it is a summertime problem too. I honestly don't believe in the spring, winter, and fall that it's that big. Of course, there's going to be some, but I think it's just a summertime deal.
I mean, I killed one last year in the fall. Wasn't expecting it, but it was one of those fish that I hit really, really, really hard with a giant frog hook and put it right.
Yeah, no, that kind of stuff happens. I'm not even. That's not even on my radar. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. You set the hook and a fish is closer to the surface and he comes flying back and hits the side of the boat and kills it. Like that happens. That's not. I'm talking about like the mass of tournament fishing.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
but I still felt just as bad killing that 5-pounder as I would have.
Yeah. What's the deal with hook them in the tongue, man? That's crazy how fast.
I have no idea. The only thing I know is that, and once again, I'm not a biologist, and don't even try to pigeonhole me into that because that is not. But
that's why we had you on the night.
This is Wikipedia.
Yeah. JT Kenney, idiot and fisheries biologist. But I do know that their gills all end into their tongue. So, like if you look at them when you hold them. Their gills come around and the bottom of their gills all end up into that tongue. So I don't know if it's something to do with that, something to do with their gills, whatever. I don't.
Yeah.
There I go talking about something I don't know.
You sounded really good up until that last part.
You
You're like,
just
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, but I do know their gills end in their tongue. I'm sure there's something to do with it.
For sure.
Shout out to Stephanie. She caught her PB this weekend, 5-pounder. Congratulations,
Nice.
Stephanie. Man, you're doing better than me. It's been kind of a struggle for me the last.
It's been a minute since I've caught a 5-pounder.
I was fishing a Ned rig yesterday. I was trying to do a Ned rig video, and I was having trouble getting bites on a stupid Ned rig. Of course, I didn't get out on the water till like 3 o'clock, but I don't know. It's like there's a lot of fish out suspended around right now. They're just roaming around all over the lake, and even with forward-facing sonar, I think they've been thrown at a lot, picked at a lot, and they're just smarter right now. They're getting hard to catch for me.
Well, in the state of Illinois, you got about 40 some odd days before bow season starts. So just look forward
just
to
gotta
that.
make it through October.
Yeah, once that happens, make it to October. Yeah.
That is nice.
So you guys said you're Southern Illinois. You fish Wren Lake?
Yeah, well, not
only if
much.
we're forced to.
We've got better lakes in between here and there.
What's that Crab Orchard and all that? What's that? They're pretty good.
Yeah, they drained Crab Orchard to do some work on the spillway, and they just filled it back up this year. And supposedly it hasn't been getting the pressure that it has in the past. It's gotten a lot better. I haven't been over there in a while.
Last time you were over there, you caught a toad.
Yeah, they're in there, man. It's got some really good fish in there. There's some smaller lakes around here. Kincaid, Lake of Egypt, Little Grassy, Devil's Kitchen, Cedar Lake. There's several within an hour and a half of here that we tend to go to. But I do need to go to Crab Orchard. The thing with Crab Orchard, you got to buy. It's one of those places where you got to buy like a permit. It's a daily pass, so you got to like drive to the conservation, the headquarters office, and get the permit, and it's out of the way and that kind of deal. But you can buy like an annual sticker, which I keep forgetting to do that. I said I was going to buy it like every year, and I keep forgetting. But
it's hardly unjustified, or it's not justified because it's like $2 to go fish there.
Yeah,
versus $35 for an annual sticker, and we don't fish it that much. So,
but it goes to conservation.
True,
it's a good cause.
True.
Yeah.
So you're not originally from Florida, are you?
No, I grew up in Maryland, in Western Maryland, actually, not down around Baltimore, Washington, D.C. Like, not that Maryland's that big, but I grew up in the mountains. I'm actually a hillbilly.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on, man. But I did fish the Potomac River down there in D.C. a lot. Grew up on a lake called Deep Creek Lake. That's in Western Maryland. I think it's 6,000 acres or something like that. But it's got a lot of shoreline. It's narrow and windy and stuff. And that's where I grew up, fishing, and of course hunting all around in that area. And it was kind of cool. It kind of developed into, just started fishing local tournaments and stuff like that. And then kind of wanted to start fishing some other places. Ended up going down to Lake Okeechobee and meeting some people down there, and kind of kept fishing tournaments and stuff. And then I ended up, I started going down to Lake Okeechobee in the wintertime, and I was guiding down there out of Roland Martin's Marina, and then coming back to Maryland in the summertime, and, guiding up in Maryland in the summertime. And I really didn't like guiding on Lake Okeechobee in the wintertime because everybody had a preconceived notion. That was at the time when Roland Martin, who's a buddy of mine, but at the time when Roland was doing a lot of television shows, holding up 7-pounders, calling them 10-pounders, and, saying come to Lake Okeechobee, and everybody thought there was a 10-pounder behind every clump of grass on Lake Okeechobee, and it's not true. There is a 7-pounder behind every clump of grass on Lake Okeechobee. There's not now. It's kind of in that Kentucky Lake kind of turmoil thing. But back then there was. And so I would have people come down and we'd fish, and, mostly shiner fishing. And they would catch 5 or 6 6-pounders and 2 7s and an 8, and they were pissed off because they didn't catch a 10. And, they become mad. And so I did that for about 6 winters, 6 seasons. The guiding season down there is in the wintertime. And, I did that for about 6 years, and finally qualified for the FLW tour. And then it was just, for the next 20 years, I just fished tournaments. But that's how I got started. I was guiding, like I said, down there out of Roland Martin's Marina, Lake Okeechobee in the wintertime, guiding in Maryland in the summertime. And I didn't mind guiding in Maryland in the summertime on Deep Creek Lake and Potomac River because there wasn't any preconceived expectation. You know what I mean? It was just, we're just going bass fishing, and if we catch some, it'll be fun. You know, like there wasn't like that 10-pounder carrot hanging out there. You know what I mean?
You were going anyway and might as well get paid. Somebody pay you to take them with you.
Yeah, but you know what I did? And well, here I go pissing people off again. You watch this. If we stay on here for a half hour, I'll piss off a lot of people. Most guides, I think, are they don't do it right. And what I mean by that is most guides that I see when they do an artificial trip, they get on the trolling motor and they just go fishing, and they have people behind them paying them, and they're just fishing. They're throwing at all the good shit first. You know what I mean? They're just out there fishing, and they catch 20, and the people that are paying them $400 to take them fishing caught 2.
Right.
The guide was like, yeah, that was a good day, wasn't it? You know, and the guy's like, it would have been a fun day for me if I could have thrown at every one of those isolated lily pad clumps first and caught all those fish that you caught, and I paid you $400 to do.
Yep.
You know, I mean, that's my opinion. When I took people, I would just stand there, run the trolling motor, and say, hey, cast at that, hey, cast at that, hey, cast at that, you know. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I have picked up a rod and made a couple of casts on guide trips, but I just got pretty soured on that whole thing, and I let my captain's license expire. There is no more guide trips for me. I haven't taken a guide trip in 20 years.
Wow.
I like catching them. I don't like. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't like taking somebody fishing. I do, but I like fishing, and I had a turmoil inside myself. Like, if this guy's paying me to take him fishing, he wants to catch the fish. So I'm not going to fish because he's paying me to take him fishing. Where if just somebody says, "Hey, will you take me fishing?" I will. I'll take. You know, if I'm going that day and I don't have anybody in the boat, you can go with me. But I'm throwing at everything first because you're not paying me.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I agree with that 100%.
It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. It's like, so there's several kinds of guide trips. There's guides that are going to be fishing a local tournament or something. They hire a guide to go check out waypoints and spots and stuff. And then there's the electronics, you know, guided trip where you're trying to tweak your electronics, get them all dialed in.
That's cool.
Yeah, right.
If you know that's what it is. Like, I just want you to. I'm not paying you to go out and put me on a bunch of fish so I can catch them. I want you to show me what's going on with it. Then that's awesome.
Right. But like you said, to stand on the front of the boat and just jack all the fish when the guy behind you.
I see it all the. Well, I mean, I don't anymore, but back. You know, when I was around that kind of stuff, I saw it all the time. These guys, you know, and the clients they weren't happy, and I wouldn't be either. If I paid some guy to take me on a guide trip and he stood on the front deck and ran the trolling motor and threw at everything first, skipped under every dock first, and threw at every lily pad first, I wouldn't be happy either.
Yeah, that's not right. So I wrote down some questions just to kind of bounce off, but one of the questions was transitioning from like a tournament angler to a major league fishing commentator. Do you miss fishing tournaments? Are you comfortable? I mean, you do a great job on the talking side of things, but how's that sitting with you? Are you okay with leaving the tournament scene behind you a little bit? Or
oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely am. I don't have, and don't get me wrong. I'll fish 2 or 3 tournaments a year. Like I fish that ICAST Cup every year. And every once in a while, you know, me and a buddy will hop in some little, you know, tournament down here locally. The first 2 years, I fished some of the MLF Toyota. So back then it was FLW Toyota Series events, the Northern Division. Just because I mean I live in Florida, obviously, but I love catching smallmouth. Like so, it was a excuse for me to go. And I got some really good buddies that are really good smallmouth. Like the first 2 years, like so 19 was the first year I started doing the Major League Fishing commentating. So in 19 and in 20, myself and Brian Thrift and Wayne Vaughn. Wayne, he's a real good buddy of ours. He's a big offshore fisherman, but he's obviously a big bass fisherman too. But we went and fished the Northern Division of the Toyotas, just a chance for us. You know, we've been buddies for 100 years, and a chance for us to get together and and go catch some smallmouth, and hey, we'll throw our name in the hat. And if we win, we win. And actually Wayne won in 2019. He won the Thousand Islands event, and Thrift finished second or third. And I just missed the cut. But we did a couple of those. But this year and last year, they've got us doing so many events now with them. Well, they have me doing so many events, commentating with MLF now, because it just keeps getting bigger. And we keep getting more viewers, and it just keeps growing and growing. So the more it grows, the more events they want us to cover. So now we're covering the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, and we might be covering the Cup events, and we might there's just and last year we only did 2 days of the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, and it started getting popular, and a million people started watching it. So now this year we did 4 days of the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit.
Yeah.
And it's just got to the point where I'm just out there in Tulsa at the studio all the time. So I really haven't had a chance. But to get back to the question, no, I'm good with it. I thought I would miss the competition end of it. I really don't. I think I loved it, and I wouldn't trade doing the whole professional tournament angler thing. I wouldn't trade it for all the tea in China. It was amazing, but that to me, that part of that's done, and somebody that I met really, really early in my career and I always looked up to was Hank Parker. She's just a cool dude, man. He just, he's just like a man's man. He's just, he's just cool. He's an awesome fisherman. You could sit there and hang out with him for 3 hours and listen to him tell stories and never get old. And just the way he handled himself around groups of people. But then if you got him away from a group of people, he was, a normal dude and whatever. But I really liked the way, he won 2 classics and he was young, right? Well, figuratively for professional bass fishing, he was young. And he just was like, dude, I'm out. I'm going out on top.
Yeah, exactly.
I just thought that was cool as shit. I was like, that is that's what a man's man does. He, he went out on top. He didn't fumble and flutter and, till he's 70 years old, still trying to get up and go compete with Jacob Wheeler and Dustin Cannell. So, and not that I ever did anything as good as Hank Parker did, but I was in a good place in my career. I made the Forest Wood Cup however many times in a row. Was finishing in the top 10 or 20 in the points every year. Doing well, and I always saw my end game in the fishing career being on the TV side of things, not necessarily a commentator. I always figured I was always comfortable in front of the camera, and everybody always told me I was comfortable and, I had the gift of gab and all that stuff. And I always figured I'd have my own fishing show, which I do now as well. It's on My Outdoor TV. But I didn't see I saw that happening at 54, not at 42. You know what I mean? Not
right.
In the early 40s. Because hey, let's face it, fishing's a different game. And that's when most guys are at their best, late 30s, early 40s. They're in that sweet spot. They're in that deal where they're still young enough that they're into it and they can kick ass, but yet they're old enough that they have, they've seen a lot of stuff happen. You know what right. I mean? They've seen a lot of scenarios play out. They've seen high water in the fall and it's never high in the fall. And they've seen, cold water turn warm real quick. And this happened and that, and I remember that. And I pull out this and whack there, that late 30s, early 40s, in my opinion, for a professional bass and professional tournament angler is a sweet spot.
Yep.
Well, and then I get sucked out of the game in my theoretical sweet spot. But I would never look back. It's amazing, dude. I get paid to talk about my buddies on TV. It's,
And when you do go fishing, you get to jack them. I mean, you don't have to. Yeah. You don't have to lay off on them for 4 days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true too. That was one thing that I didn't like about tournament fishing. Because, like I said, dude, I like catching fish. I love bass fishing. I love crappie fishing. Dude, it'll be done in about 2 months. I got a freaking 34-foot new offshore boat coming. I love catching swordfish and freaking tuna and mahi. And I mean, I only live a mile from the saltwater boat ramp. Like, you know, I'm in the ocean in about 15 minutes, you know, out through the inlet, and I'm in the ocean. So, I just like catching. I like catching anything. I love hunting too. Like I'm just an outdoor guy, man. And that's the only thing that I don't like about the whole commentating deal. It is what I just said. Is I'm an outdoor guy, and I don't like. It's not that I'm not gonna quit because of this, but I will be the first to. I'll tell everybody. I don't like sitting in that dark studio from 5 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Like I'm used to being outside all the time outside. And now either 4 days in a row or 6 days in a row from a whole bunch from say late January till about mid-September. Like I wake up in the morning, take a shower, go sit in a dark room, and every once in a while these bright lights come on me, and I sit. But other than that, it's dark, and I stare at a computer screen and 16 TV screens, and I don't like that part of it. Like, dude, I'm outside all the time, like hunting, fishing. You know, I luckily enough, I've got some acreage here in Florida, and I don't know, running feeders, running the brush hog, get the tractor fixing the road. Like I'm just like I'm doing something. And it is really hard for me just to sit my ass in that chair for, you know, inside for 6 days in a row for 10 hours or 12 hours a day. Like that's the only thing I don't like about it. Everything else is awesome.
I think any fisherman that would be hard for, just to watch fishing for.
Yeah.
Like I can only I have them all recorded. And it's got to be a cold day in hell for me to sit around and watch fishing for 4 or 5 hours. Like, right. I got a 7-acre lake in my backyard. If I want to watch fishing, I'm going to watch it on the end of my line. Like,
yeah. So check this out. Here's a funny thing. We were talking about technology earlier. So we can see, you know, I'm talking about as far as MLF goes. We can see how many people, like we don't know who it is, but we can see how many people click in and watch the show. And how long they watch it, and you know, like, and how many minutes they watched, and
You can see that real time while it's happening.
I mean, I don't, but some nerd in the back does. You know,
right. Some guy in an even darker room.
Yeah, his room's even darker than where I am.
Yeah, but he doesn't fish. He does not fish.
Right. But it's funny that he said there's a very, very limited number of people that watch like all the time, you know, that just have it running all the time. But he said the vast majority of people tune in for 15 or 20 minutes, just like you were saying, tune in for 15, 20 minutes, tune back out. Hour and a half later, they tune back in for 15 minutes, see what's going on, tune back out, you know, as far as on the live stream.
Right.
Now our product that we put on television, whether it's on Outdoor Channel, Discovery Channel, I don't even know how many channels we're on now. We take that 8 hours of live stream, you know, just take all the highlights basically and crush it into a show, whether it's, I think the Discovery Channel is 2 hour show and it's a 1 hour show. And I don't know. That's not my end. But yeah, but he was saying as far as the live stream goes, that the vast majority of people tune in. They might tune in 4 or 5 times a day. You know what I mean? But they only watch for 15, 20 minutes. Tune in. I mean, that's probably how I would watch it if I was watching it, you know?
Yeah, that's what I do. I have like a 26 gig phone plan per month, and then they throttle my time, you know, they throttle it down and it goes super slow. So I'm always budgeting it. Like I go crazy the first part of the contract, like the first part of the couple of weeks, I'm watching whatever. And then as it gets towards the end, I'm like, okay, I got to click on something and watch it for a little bit. But like the other day when I was watching the tournament, that's what I would do. I'd watch it for like 15 minutes. I'm a letter carrier too for the Postal Service. So I'm out on the street and I just drive the truck.
But he's not watching it while he's driving the truck.
No. In case my boss is on here. But so
I was going to say, yeah, right.
I'm listening. I'm not watching, right? But I just got a lot of windshield time out on the route, which is kind of convenient for me. But I'll watch it for or I'll listen to it for 10, 15 minutes and then I'll shut it down just to conserve, data plan. But yeah, I used to work nights too. You're talking about being stuck in a black room all day. I worked nights at the processing center. I'd go in at, I think I worked like 7 p.m. to 5 in the morning. It drove me absolutely nuts. I get depressed being inside. And when I got this opportunity to be like a letter carrier to where I'm outside, you got to deal with the elements, you got the rain, the sleet, the snow, all that stuff. There's a motto. Yeah. We eat crazy chicken. You got dogs, you got disgruntled customers and all that stuff, but it's worth it being outside every day. Cause I'd hate to be pinned up in, that kind of factory type setting. So I feel your pain, man, being stuck in a black room there for.
Yeah. But if that's the only complaint I got, it's not that bad.
Yeah. I think you're doing okay.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of questions up on here.
Well, you're in Florida in the wintertime. So
correct.
Yeah.
That was by design. I grew up in Maryland. That was by design. That wasn't just some lucky, that's where I was born stuff. I chose that.
You knew you were going to get the hell out of there in a hurry.
Yes.
Here's a question right here.
See, we're right on the bubble, though. We get the good winter fishing, but it doesn't get just brutal cold except for like every 2 or 3 years, and it's like single digits for a week.
Yeah, we had like 2 winters ago, we had ice for the lakes were locked up for like 3 weeks. But typically we get like skim ice and then it melts and skim ice and then it melts. So
I'm familiar with Southern Illinois. I hunt not every year, but a lot of years I hunt around Mount Vernon. I have a really, really good one of my best friends in the world. His name's Skip Bennett. He lives in he lives in Dix, just north of Mount Vernon.
Okay.
There's not good deer hunting in Southern Illinois, though. So
Jesus.
You got to be on the right piece of property, though. I mean, I've hunted out there a lot, and I've seen a lot of 140s and 150s, killed a couple high 140s. But I haven't seen any of that stuff that like 5 or 6 miles down the road I've seen some guys kill. It's just,
two of my best friends hunt Southern Illinois, bow hunt Southern Illinois, and one of them hunts all public ground, and I think his biggest is like 160, 170.
Yeah.
Bow hunting. And then another one, he hunts public ground, but his biggest came on his private farm up in, we'll call it Central Illinois, but it's still Southern Illinois. Anything south of Chicago is Southern Illinois.
Right.
But I think his was like low 190s. I mean, just an absolute giant.
I've never killed anything like that. I got drawn for Kansas this year. I got a buddy who has a ranch out there. I got drawn in that unit, so maybe that'll be fun. We'll see about it.
It gets cold and windy out there.
Yes.
Kansas.
I see we got a question there. JT, what's your biggest bass on Headwaters? So I've caught 4 in the low 10s. But the biggest one that came in my boat, you can actually watch it on the Fishing Show with JT Kenney on My Outdoor TV. Shaw Grigsby, the very first time I ever got in the boat with Shaw Grigsby. And cool backstory. Shaw actually went when they were building Headwaters. And if you're not familiar with Headwaters Lake, it's the newest, biggest thing that's happened down here in Florida. It just happens to be right down the street from my house. They built this lake purposely. Well, the main purpose is a holding facility. So when the hurricanes come, the St. Johns River doesn't flood. But they said, well, hey, while we're doing this, the Florida Wildlife Commission gave a grant to the St. Johns River Water Management Division to go in and do some habitat improvement, make some deep holes, make some, creek channels, do all this, plant a bunch of cypress trees and lily pads and Kissimmee grass and just make this crazy, make it, a bass fishing paradise. And they did. And I think it was like 2012 or 2013, Shaw actually did a little video for the FWC about, hey, we're building this, like we're using your fishing license dollars to build the next trophy bass mecca. So Shaw was out there with a old microphone with a string, with a cord hanging off of it, and you can still see
like Bob Barker.
It's still on YouTube. You can research it. I think they didn't call it Headwaters Lake then; they called it Fellsmere Reservoir or something like that.
Okay.
But anyway, so there's Shaw out there, and there's these dudes running these big bulldozers and all this crap. And anyway, so I got the idea when the lake opened. You know, I said, "Hey, Shaw, why don't you come? You know, do a fishing show with me?" And you know, it'll be cool. We'll put a little bit of that old video into the show, and then we'll be like, "Hey, you're standing here now. We're fishing here." Well, lo and behold, he catches a 12.45.
Dang.
When we went out there and just did, like, I hadn't caught. I still have. It's been open for 2 or 3 years now. I still haven't caught one that big. But yeah, he had a 12.45. So that's the biggest one that's been in my boat from Headwaters.
So when did they stock that lake then? So
that when they filled it up in 2013. In 2013, they put like 750,000 F1 largemouth in it. They put a bunch of copper-nosed bluegill. They put a bunch of black crappie, and they put a bunch of channel catfish in. And then in 2015, they put another like 750,000 F1 largemouth. And I'm not talking about little tiny, like they put them in where they were like 4 or 5 inches long. Like they were already, you know.
They're going to survive.
Good survival.
A lot of them are going to make it.
Yeah.
And then in like 2017, they put another 750,000 F1s in there, and it's pretty amazing lake, man. It's to have it 7 miles down the road from my house. It's like 10,000 acres. But the thing about it is it's every inch of the lake is like there's no middle part of the lake that's like doesn't have any cover. Like it's all 10,000 acres is fishable. It's covered in hydrilla. Then there's just channels and stuff through the hydrilla and deep holes. It's pretty amazing. It's a bass fisherman's paradise. There's no doubt about that.
Does it have a ton of pressure on it, or is it not? You know, is it not
yeah,
too crazy?
Like there'll be 75 to 100 boats in the parking lot in the wintertime. And dude, this time of year, there's nobody down there. You get down there, there's 4 or 5 boats. But the thing about it is, you think about 100 boats on a 10,000 acre lake, you're like, holy crap, there's no way. But what you have to understand, you're not just fishing around the bank. The whole lake from north to south, east to west, the whole thing is cover. Like it is, the whole thing is cover. So you can just be running out across the lake and just take the boat out of gear, sit down, and you're in a hydrilla bed. Like, so you can, so in the wintertime it gets fished, but there's still fish in that place that's never seen a lure because you can't fish it all. Like you can't, you know, like, and you're talking to a guy that for 20 years got paid to break a 50,000 acre lake down in 2 or 3 days of practice. And I'm talking about a 10,000 acre lake, and you can't fish it all. You can't.
So it fishes big is what you're saying.
Oh yeah. It's there's fish everywhere. Like it's, and you might have to fish for an hour and not get a bite, but then, you know, then you get into them and you catch 10 in the next hour, you know?
Well, it's just that's grass fishing, though, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you talk about Wren Lake, and you know, I had to learn the hard way. Wren Lake, you just flip and flip and flip and flip and flip, and then flip some more, and you might still miss the best spot by 4 flips.
Oh yeah,
you're just gonna catch, you know, 20, 22 pounds on those next 5 flips.
Yeah.
I've never fished Wren Lake, but I've driven by it a bunch of times going to my buddies.
You should just keep driving
just keep
by.
Driving
just
by.
Keep driving by.
It
ain't really.
I do. I've never fished there.
You ain't missing much. I was going to ask you this question. Michael says, "How did JT's relationship with Mikey Balls come about?" Because I saw you. I know you've been on a couple of his videos on the channel. Great. He's one of my favorite YouTube personalities for sure, hands down. Just a really cool dude. But I bought 2 or 3 launch frogs based off the video that you guys did together. So how did your relationship with Mikey Balls come about?
So I'll preempt the conversation by saying Mikey Balls is one of my best friends in the world. He absolutely is. We've worked together for, I don't even know. I'd like have to really think about it, but it's been at least 8 years, 9 years, maybe. I don't know. So long story short, I was with Gambler Baits at the time. And Mikey approached Gambler Baits and said, "Hey, social media is going to be a big deal. You need somebody running your stuff. I'm your guy." And him and Val worked out some deal. I don't even know if he was getting paid all that much. He was getting paid a little bit, maybe getting some baits or something. And obviously stuff's way different for Mikey now, but that's how it started. So, and I was basically the only big pro angler that Gambler had at the time. So of course, Val, that owns Gambler, he said, you know, you got to get with this guy and do your, because he needs social media content, whatever that means. You know, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's how long ago it was. Like, you know, nobody, well, obviously some people did, but it wasn't really that prevalent at that time. So, you know, long story short, Mikey and I just kind of hit it off. Like, he's just a cool dude. Like, he's my kind of guy. Like, we're constantly ribbing on each other and telling dick jokes. And like, it's just a fun atmosphere. If you're that kind of guy, like, I understand if you don't like that kind of jokes, then, you know, you just don't listen to it or be offended or, you know, whatever. I don't know. Like, but like him and I just are very similar personalities and just get along. And he's just a cool, genuine, good dude, man. Like, we have fed very well off of each other. And luckily we're two, I would say, close to best friends that have found a way to make some money off of each other, so to speak. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's just been a great relationship, man. Like I said, he's no kidding. He's one of my best friends.
Does he have a sunscreen sponsor?
I do not know.
He should. I mean, he's definitely proactive with sunscreen around.
Oh yeah, I ribbed him.
Yeah,
I mean,
like he stuck his head in a jar of milk or something.
You should hear, like I promise you, like whenever I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm like retiring, 100% retiring. I've got everything set in my life the way I want it. I don't have to work anymore. Somebody just needs to put a microphone in the boat with Mikey Balls and I for 8 hours. And it would make whatever the raunchiest stuff you can think of, it would make them blush. Like, I promise you. But there would be a lot of people that would think it's really fun. There'd be like 3 Karens that would get offended by it, and everybody else would just horse laugh.
That's for another day, though, right? Down the road.
Right. Yeah, that's not till later.
We have to cut ties with a lot of people before that happens, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you use a silver? Let's see, JT. Do you use a silver minnow spoon in Florida? Seems like a swim jig alternative.
Dude, I have, believe it or not, and it actually works. I finished there 100 years ago with a buddy of mine that I used to team tournament fish with, who unfortunately passed away about a year or two ago. But I remember the last time I fished a silver minnow, a Johnson silver minnow, we finished second in this tournament. It was a boat for first place.
Dang.
We finished second, and we cussed and threw stuff, and like by like 4 ounces or something, we finished second, and we got like $2,000 instead of getting a brand new boat. And it was at the time when that was a big deal, you know. So not that it's not now, but you know what I mean. It was a lot bigger deal than it would be now. So that was, but yeah, we used to put and I'm not sponsored by them or anything. We used to put a Zoom twin tail eel is what they called it. It was like a little spinnerbait trailer thing, and we'd slide that up on that Johnson silver minnow, and you throw that thing out there and you just kind of slow roll it, because if you reel it too fast it would spin, but if you slow rolled it would just kind of walk like you're walking a stick bait, you know, like a Zara spook or something on the surface.
Yeah,
but it would do it under the surface, but it would have that big tail on the back, that twin tail eel tail on the back. Dude, we caught a bunch of fish on that thing.
I bet it still works.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I haven't thrown it in 15 years. I guarantee you it works.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things that we haven't thrown in 15 years that still work.
It's because there's so many. You can only put so much stuff in your boat. You got to move the old stuff out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's craziness.
I can tell you this: if you don't have stuff like this in your boat that says bait fuel on it, you are missing out.
Let's dive into that. What is bait fuel?
So it's I can give you the scientific Well, you see, guys, it's a proprietary blend of the blah blah blah. You know, whatever.
Enzymes and
No, that's not me. So I don't. Once again, I'm not a biologist. I think we already went over this.
Yeah,
we've established that.
But it's really not a scent. It's more of like and everybody out there that's listening to us right now, I'm going to use some terms that I really don't know what they mean, but this is how I'm going to explain to you what it is. It's like a pheromone kind of deal, like, and I don't really know exactly what a pheromone is, but I have a little bit of an idea.
Yeah.
But like I akin it to like a buck in the rut. Like it's a scent that they get that it's not like it doesn't smell like a dead crawfish. Okay. It's like a pheromone type deal that, like, you know, when they smell it, they're like, yeah. You know, like it gets them excited and it gets, you know, it fires them up.
So do they try to mate with your tube before they actually eat it? I mean,
I mean, I know they eat it. I know for a fact that they eat it. Like I can show you. Mikey Balls and I did videos on it where we illustrated the entire thing, and we used forward-facing sonar to demonstrate, like, for a fact how this works. So, and I'll give you the short and skinny of it, because I know we're running a little bit low on time. I'll give you the short and skinny of it. Pull up to a brush pile on a lake. You know, it's 20 feet of water. Brush pile's 5 feet off the bottom. There's 8 or 10 dots in the brush pile. And when I say dots, that means, you know, they're bass. You can there's 8 or 10 bass in that brush pile. You could take any lure on your deck and throw out there, and the first bait that came through that brush pile, one of them was biting it. Like, just, it didn't matter if it had bait fuel on it, bait fuel in it, no scent on it, no, spinner bait, crankbait, jig, worm, drop shot, didn't matter. And then you could see on your forward-facing sonar, there's still 9 dots in that pile. And you could throw every bait you have and hit that brush pile, crawl up through that brush pile, and never get another bite. And we did it time and time again on this one particular day. And then we did it 4 or 5 other days as we were testing different formulas of bait fuel. And you could not get another fish to bite after the initial bite. Every single time we would take bait fuel and squirt it down a worm, a jig, not a hard bait like a crankbait or spinnerbait or anything like that, but on a worm or a jig, fire it back out there, watch it sink down on the other side of the brush pile, work it up to the brush pile, and start crawling it through the brush pile, and poof, and you'd catch one. Now, it wasn't necessarily a 9-pounder or anything, but you just made 10 casts with that same worm, you know, 10-inch worm or whatever, or football jig, through that brush pile, nothing, and put bait fuel on there and get a bite the very next cast. And we documented it on video. It's on video. Like this isn't some story that I'm telling,
right?
You know, one night. Like, it's on video. You can go watch. I don't know how many videos are on American Baitworks site. They're on Mikey Balls' website. They're on my stuff. You can go watch it. Like, it is a fact that this stuff works. And we went through a lot of different formulas. One of the problems, and I'm not afraid to tell you, one of the problems that we had with it was that we had the wrong preservative in it, and it was turning yellow. Like we had it worked correctly, and it still worked even when it turned yellow. But the very first ones we did were actually turning yellow, so we had to figure out a different preservative to put in it so it didn't turn yellow. Just because, you know, that would probably turn people off. They're like, oh, it went bad, when it really wasn't.
Right.
But you might sell more that way, though.
Yeah, I mean,
if it goes yellow, it's bad. You can't use it. Just sell smaller.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Talking about selling more too is it's one of those things where the people that are behind it, you know, there's Professor Bruce Tufts. He was instrumental in doing all this stuff. He's the head fisheries biologist at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, and he was one of the guys that was really into this. But the funny thing is, and what I keep trying to tell people about this thing is that, you know, guys are buying now like this bag of net bait right here. You can see the bait fuel's already in this. You don't have to put anything in this. It's already in this. But you can take the bottle of bait fuel and use any bait you want and use this. And the best thing to do is just open your bag and just squirt just a couple drops in there. I see guys dump half the bottle in here. That's completely wasteful. All you want to do is put a couple drops in there, just enough to get it wet. That's all you have to do, just enough to get it wet. This stuff is potent. Like, these guys are just like, just dumping all this stuff in there, and you don't have to do that. Dude, this bottle should last you, like, if you fish twice a week, this bottle should last you for 6 months. Like, it should last you that long. It's just a couple of drops. It's $10 and it's a couple drops.
Is there a time that you don't use it?
Do what?
Is there any time that you don't use it?
No, not anymore. I mean, I use it all. I don't put it on crankbaits and topwaters and stuff like that. Sure. But here's the big thing about the bait fuel, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to cry about this if they haven't already heard about this. There might be now, but there was a point in time where there was really only 2 scent companies that had a scent that worked. Fax had a scent that worked, because a scent to work on a bass, not necessarily on saltwater fish, but on bass, it has to be water-based. Like, this is just a fact. It has to be water-based. So how a bass smells and tastes, most stuff was oil-based. You know what I mean? Like, you would see it would make a little sheen on the water, just like oil does. Most stuff was petroleum or oil-based. The way a bass smells and tastes, it's a million little dots all around his lips. It's not those actual nostrils up there by his eyes. It's a million tiny, tiny little dots all around his lips. They're called oral factories. They're so small, okay, that the smallest molecule that oil can bead down to, we all know oil beads in water, right? The smallest molecule that oil can bead down to is bigger than a bass's oral factories. So scientifically, if you use something that makes a sheen on the water, if you use a scent that's petroleum based, it doesn't work. Fact. It just doesn't work. You can think it works. You can have in your mind that it works. I wipe this stuff on my worm. My grandfather used to spray WD-40 on his bait, and he used to catch more than I did. Everybody can have whatever they want to be, whatever they want to say. It's a science. It doesn't work. It has to be water-based. Problem with it being water-based, if you just squirt it, like, say my finger's a worm, and you just squirt it on your worm, it's in 2 casts, it's worn off.
Right.
So that's why we always say take your baits, and you don't have to do it with baits that already have bait fuel in it. This is already in there. You can fish this. You never have to use this on this. But just say this is a regular bag of whatever you throw, Zoom or Guggen or whatever baits you like. Just open it up and just put a couple of drops in there. I like to do it the night before. Put a couple drops in there. Don't fill the bag up. Seriously, a couple drops. And then just do this. Just get them all wet. Throw them in your tackle bag and use them tomorrow. And that stuff will seep in there, and then it'll last for 20 or 30 minutes. Well, you're never going to go that long because your worm's going to get tore up unless you're fishing in a mud hole that doesn't have any fish in it. Did you say Wren Lake?
Wren Lake. Yeah.
You can fish a worm all day at Wren Lake. That's good. You sound like you knew what you're talking about there.
No, well,
I learned some new words in there.
Yeah, olfactory.
Yeah, I've learned this over the course of 30 some years in this industry. It's really easy to tell people about stuff that actually works. And it's really hard to tell people about stuff that doesn't actually work. Somebody just wants you to tell people that it does.
I agree with
this. Is really easy to talk about because it actually works.
And that works.
And I'll be the first one to admit. I'll be the first one to admit, dude. As far as I know, and there might be somebody else, and there's probably somebody else gonna say, "Hey, so and so has water-based scent," and cool, and it probably works. But right now, it's American Baitworks and Bait Fuel, and I'll be the first one to admit, and Berkeley's stuff, the Max Scent, and that works too. It's water based. It works.
Right.
All the rest of them, as far as I know, they don't work.
So is it a deadly combination if you put the two together?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Fair enough.
So I haven't tried it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of American Baitworks, we are going to be doing a giveaway here shortly. And the way the giveaway works is whenever I mention the word Sasquatch, make a reference to Sasquatch, folks at home guess a number between 1 and 200. And JT's already guessed a number. We got it written down here. Whoever guesses that number is going to get a rather healthy American Baitworks giveaway. So that's going to be coming up here shortly. Stay tuned for that. We got a bunch of questions, and
let's hit some of them.
Check this one out. This one's kind of must be an inside thing. JT, can you explain the Chicago dump and pump method of spinnerbait fishing? I have a lot to learn from the grass wizard.
So I can, and it's kind of technical, and I would like to be able to talk to you real time and be able to get a gauge of your fishing prowess. Okay, because this isn't something. The Chicago dump and pump. I mean, it's not simple like the Tennessee two twitch. I mean, this is something that
sounds more technical. It sounds more technical.
You do. You have to be not only articulate, but you have to really understand mended lines and stuff. But basically, what it is burning a spinnerbait, swim jig, whatever. The Chicago dump and pump doesn't necessarily have to be a spinnerbait deal. But basically, you burn it up to whatever piece, and it's an old technique that's really come into its own with forward-facing sonar. So you fire it out there, kind of, let it sink down past the clump of grass or the brush pile or, ball of bait, whatever. You burn it up to it, and when you get right to the, like I said, whether it's ball of bait or grass, whatever, and then you just dump it, but you dump it on a slack line. So you're kind of getting that like, ooh, and it's just falling. And then so many times you just give it a pump right after that, and toonk, I mean, they'll just nail it. And we were talking about it one night in Chicago, and we were talking about how you dump it and pump it, and it just became the Chicago dump and pump. And
nice.
Was there a few adult beverages along with that in Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. There's some more science. It's like some Mutual Omaha science stuff.
Did you say Mutual of Omaha?
Yeah, I'm going old school, dude.
I like the reference. And what I have to say is if there was because logistically, if you think about this, how were dozens of carp breeding it? Because when I think of a carp, I don't necessarily think of a grass carp, which is the great big like Santee Cooper. I just think of the common carp. Got the little barbells. He's got great big gold. I think, but he's still, what is he? He's 10 pounds. He's 12 pounds. So dozens of them. I mean, you're talking about a couple 100 pounds of fish on a 3.5 flipping tube. I mean, if you had I marlin fish a lot. Like if you had an islander out there, that weighs 4 or 5 pounds, and I can see, maybe a dozen carp, trying to breed that at the same time. But I mean, dozens, like pluralized, like you're at least 24 carp, maybe 36, maybe 48. I don't know. In a 3.5 flipping tube, this sounds a little fishy to me.
I mean, obviously, it had to be like at least a 6-inch tube.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be.
Yeah. Somewhere it's just not.
Who was that guy that made that giant tube back in the day?
I don't know. I remember Ish used to fish like a 7-inch tube for Betty.
Oh, yeah, he did. He won a tournament like Amistad on that, too.
I remember that. Yep. Freaking gangster tube, man. Let me scan through some of these questions here.
Gotta leave Blockit out of it.
Yeah, there's some Blockit comments on here.
The Randy Blockit?
Yeah.
Really?
Apparently he was complaining about it yellowing, like being yellow or something. Maybe he got some of the first.
It does. I think I talked about that. Like some of the very first ones, they were turning yellow because we had to change the preservative in it.
I saw something really cool last night that I want to share before I forget about it. I was fishing over a local lake and it was almost dark. There's stripers in the lake. I got forward-facing sonar on my boat. And
so wait, you got to stop right there. So you just pissed Block It off right there when you said forward facing sonar, right?
Well, he's not on. It was just comments about
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So go ahead.
With all due respect, Senator, I do have forward facing sonar on my boat, but I was watching these schooling stripers were coming up, and they were probably like 500 yards away. So I put my trolling motor on 10 just to zip up there, and I was throwing a chug bug out there, working it, and I got to see those stripers following my bait on top, which is the first time it's ever happened.
Yeah.
I haven't witnessed that. I haven't been. Usually they come up and it's over with before I can get to them, but they were up for a long enough time that I set up on them, and I could see those fish following that popper, and I'd stop it and they kind of just sit there, and I'd move it again and they come up hot on it, and finally they blew up on it. But that right there, not to pivot back to forward facing sonar, but that right there is the stuff that you see with that technology that you never could see before, with it being like real-time live stuff. It just blew me away, man. It was a cool moment.
I didn't realize that until just recently. I didn't realize that you could see your topwater bait on forward facing sonar, but you can. I just assumed that, I don't know, maybe it just went under the surface, or I don't know. But the more I've fooled with it lately, you can actually see the topwater bait. I was like, I love technology. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just so cool to me.
Yeah, you got to click that transducer up a little bit. When I first put it on, I had it just shooting basically out and straight out. But if you click it up a couple notches, you can really see your bait splash down, and then you can see your topwaters as it coming across the surface of the water.
Well, the big help there is seeing your bait splash, like to see where you can reach out there to 80, 90, 100 feet and see your bait fall, is to watch it splash.
Yeah,
that's the key.
I agree.
I would love to see a big spook on, a 2-foot flat at that one lake that is still coming back.
What?
In like 13 or 14.
What, Kentucky Lake?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. that was in the fall in Kentucky Lake.
Yeah, I would have loved to have that technology then.
Yeah, it's something else, man. It's fun. I got a couple questions about grass fishing. One was like frog fishing. I know you guys got the launch frog, which is a great frog. I wanted to ask you about like choosing colors. Yeah, there you go. Choosing colors on a frog. How do you what's your rule of thumb about choosing colors on a frog? Because I'm always like, do I start with a black one? Do I start with a white one? Or
so we have on staff at American Baitworks one of the best lure artists in the world. His name's Andrew Gardner. He has won more awards. He has more accolades than he has drywall to hang them all on. He goes to this big thing in Switzerland every year, which is like the world bait painting championships or whatever. He's won it a bunch of times, and he actually works for American Baitworks. So we have every color of frog, every pattern that you could think of, and we have so much stuff that we haven't even released yet. It's not even on the website. With all that being said, dude, honestly, there's one color. It's called Sloppy Toad. That's the color right there. It's called Sloppy Toad. It actually has a pattern on the bottom too, where most frogs are just white or black or whatever on the bottom.
I'm gonna solo you out so we can see.
Oh yeah, no. So that frog for me, that color works everywhere. It works really good in Florida, and in my opinion, whatever's on the bottom of the frog is actually what the fish see. I mean, they might see a little bit of the side or whatever.
Yeah.
But whatever's on the bottom of the frog is actually what the fish see. In my opinion, it works so good in Florida is because we're inundated with tilapia now, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. It's an invasive species, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That's what color tilapia are. So I think they think this is a little tilapia, because it's just something up there on the top, blip, 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 and they get up there and it's that color. And they think it's a little tilapia. So, especially in Florida, I just throw, like, once again, we have the greatest lure painter that has ever walked the face of the planet, and I throw one color all the time, pretty much, and it's this one. to throw in the late spring when there's a shad spawn, obviously I throw a shad colored frog. If I'm not throwing this one, I have a black one and a white one on, and I'll keep rotating back and forth, because there's some days when it's bright and sunny and they like the black one. There's some days when it's bright and sunny and they like the white one. There's some days when it's overcast and they like the black one. There's some days when it's when it's overcast and they like the white one. But I don't get a whole bunch of other crazy colors. I pretty much have sloppy toad, which is this one we were just talking about, sloppy toad. And then either, white or, black. I mean, this one's called, we call this one dusk. It's black with got a little bit of white stripes and stuff in it. But I mean, it's basically a black one. That's just where I am. I'd love to tell you that, when the moon is a waxing gibbous and it's May and I'm not, whatever, yeah. I'm not going into all that. I mean, seriously, the launch frog is the best frog I've ever seen in my life. It's got a tungsten weight transfer system in it. I mean, it casts like crazy. It walks super easy. It hooks them better than any frog I've ever seen. I have 50 sloppy toads, 5 black ones and 5 white ones.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. Like I was talking about the fishing show with JT Kenney. That's on MOTV, My Outdoor TV. There's an episode actually catching 11.5 on the sloppy toad launch frog. It's also, I was doing a show with James Watson. He's from out here, guys.
Yeah, he's about 5 hours away.
A little bit further west, but
sure.
But I did a show with him, and we caught some bigs that day. Those big ones were just biting big. I caught an 11.5 on that sloppy toad launch frog. So that thing's the deal, man.
Were you in Florida on that show?
Yeah. We were in a little 3,000 acre completely public lake, just a little 3,000 acre lake down here in the Palm Bay area. It's called Kenansville, and okay. They were just on that day. I mean, it's a good lake. Don't get me wrong. It's a completely public lake. It doesn't get a lot of pressure though, because it's at the end of like a 13-mile dirt road. So a lot of dudes just
nice.
They don't want to, you know what I'm saying? They don't want to tow their boat down a 13-mile dirt road.
Right.
So it just doesn't get a lot of pressure.
Hope they never pave it.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, it's funny. I joke with a lot of people. We have a lot of lakes here in the town I live in, Palm Bay. We have a lot of lakes here that are on dirt roads, and I always tell everybody, we have a really good day of fishing, and I always tell them, hey man, every great day of fishing is at the end of a dirt road. It just is what it is. I mean, I use my cover all the time down here, and I tow my boat down all these dirt roads. They're actually not rough roads. They're pretty smooth. They're just dusty. So I just put my cover on and have at it.
Well, it was one of the things I was going to ask. In Florida, where you're at, is it just like Texas, where there's a lot of those hidden gems out there that nobody knows about because they're at the end of a dirt road? And when you get to the end of that dirt road, there's banjos playing?
No, there's not anymore because of Google Earth.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I use myself a lot too. But no, there's nothing hidden anymore. It's just, do you want to get your boat dusty or not?
Gotcha.
Just being honest, it is. You want to, like I said, I use my cover all the time. Last year I ran a Falcon F20 Predator. Just got an F21. And yeah, anybody that's listening too, if you're looking for an F20 Predator, I'm going to put mine on the market in about 2 days probably. So look me up on the Facebooks and all that kind of stuff. You can get a hold of me any way like that. But sure. I'll have a F20 Predator. It's got about 100 hours on it. Been down a couple of dirt roads, but other than that, it's in pretty good shape.
What about a popping frog versus a regular walking frog?
Popping frog to me is really good when the fish are garden fry. Like you can see the little pods of fry. Because a popping frog, if you're not real versed at walking a frog, a popping frog is very easy to manipulate it to make movements, but not move very far when you do that. Will the cross event be won on a launch frog? Absolutely, it will be. Back to you, Hellabass. So with that concave mouth, and we're coming out with a new frog called the Smash Mouth, and it's going to be pretty amazing. It's going to be pretty good. We're still tweaking it. We're still doing some tweaking on it. Still needs a couple little things to be perfect. But yeah, it's easier if you're not real versed at, you know, when we say walking a frog, you know, it's when it's kind of going, you know, and you're working it back and forth like this as you twitch it. Like if you're pretty versed in it, you can do that with short twitches and throwing slack back at your frog as you twitch it and throw slack back at it. And you can make it be pretty erratic and not really cover a lot of distance. You can keep it right around that little clump of fry. But the popping frog is easier to do that. And then the only other thing with the popping frog is if you just think you really need a lot of action, like, you know, like you want to make a ton of noise, so popping frog's a little better.
Gotcha. That makes sense. 100%. I mean, that's just a question that people are always curious about when you use one or the other. And I'd also say, like, if you're just fishing straight up mats, then you don't want a popping frog. I mean, right. In my opinion, like I like it around that loose kind of that sparse stuff, and then over bluegill beds, that type of stuff. Spawn, post spawn. I was also going to ask you about, like, here's another question I have, and this is, I'm sure everybody runs into this. When you're fishing grass, like matted grass, how do you know when to make a change from punching to a frog or from a frog to a punching?
So it's actually pretty easy, in my opinion. It's actually pretty easy. So if a mat is really thick, and this might take me a couple minutes to explain this, but bear with me. It's probably going to make sense to a lot of people that don't know a lot about fishing mats. Very, very, very rarely are you ever going to throw a frog over a hydrilla mat. And by saying that, the first thing you have to understand is you have to know the difference between pondweed, between hydrilla, between milfoil, you know, what eelgrass, whatever the grass is, you have to know the difference, because true hydrilla, when it mats, it mats the top of it, what is obstructing the surface is very, very thick. Okay. So, but even if it's open cavernous underneath, but a hydrilla mat will be very thick. So you want to punch that because you want to push through that thick layer and get into this open cavern underneath. Milfoil is really good for frogging because its surface layer is very, very thin. Mm-hmm. So the fish can come up through that and get that frog very easily. Where if a hydrilla mat has the mat 6 or 8 inches thick, the frog's up there walking, and the fish might kind of maybe knows something's up there, but he's 6 inches away from it. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, you know, like, don't get me wrong. Now, I throw a frog around hydrilla a lot if the hydrilla has open holes in it, you know, maybe the size of a trash can lid, you know, something like that. I'll throw the launch frog up on the mat and scooch it up to the edge of the hole and then get it in the hole and you know, poosh. But as far as when you see all these, like, guys fishing over cheese and these fish coming up through cheese and hitting it, like, that's milfoil. It's not hydrilla. Unless it's late fall dying hydrilla where it's very thin. If it's good, thick, green, pretty hydrilla mat, you have to punch it because the fish is never going to come up through 6 inches of mat, you know what I mean, to get the frog. It's you have to punch it.
Gotcha. Well, down there in Florida, while you're out and about, you ever run across any Sasquatches?
Actually, down here we call them skunk apes.
Yes, skunk. That's right. Skunk
yeah,
apes.
And I actually, one time I had one. First off, they're wily, for one. Sure. And for two, they're really fast. So I'm kind of a tall guy. I'm 6'4", not quite as thin and athletic as I used to be. And I had a skunk ape. I was coming out of my tree stand, and I had a skunk ape run me down one time. And by the way, let me tell you, before I get too far into the story, they don't call him skunk ape for nothing. I mean, that thing was foul. I mean, foul, like nasty foul. But anyway, he got a hold of me, and I don't know if his intention was fornication. I don't know what it was.
You can only hope.
No. You don't understand. When I say foul, you don't understand what this was. So luckily, I got a hold of a piece of lighter knot, and I whacked him on the knee with it, and it immobilized him for just a minute, just enough for me to get back to the four-wheeler, take off, and when I got home, Stephanie, I mean, she had to like spray me down with the hose outside, and she was telling me it was worse than the time the raccoons got in the copier. I mean, it was one of the most nasty experiences of my life, and I haven't been back to that place since. I let my lease run out on that ground. I haven't been back since.
I can't blame you for that one.
Well, you're lucky to be here.
I don't want that right now. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Jeez. Yeah, I've heard of the skunk ape. I've never had the luxury of smelling the skunk ape. You sure wasn't a homeless guy?
It's not a luxury. Trust me, it is not a luxury. Normally, they say the Okefenokee Swamp on the Georgia-Florida border is typically where they have the most of the sightings. And I'm 220 miles south of there, probably 200 miles south of there. I mean, there's
that's
more.
only a couple day walk for them, though.
There's more of them than people think.
Oh yeah, they're here and there and everywhere.
Well, I think the skunk ape, they have not only a shorter wingspan, but they have a shorter leg span than a normal Sasquatch.
True.
Or Yeti, if you will. I don't know.
It's kind of like the deer down in Florida. They're just a little bit smaller.
They are. They're actually a lot smaller. They
have to get in and out of the mangroves.
Yeah, they're more like a small dog down there.
So the biggest deer I've ever seen killed down here, believe it or not, was horn wise was a 167.
Really?
Actually, in my county, yeah, believe it or not. But
weighed 120 pounds on hoof.
100. It was almost 150 pounds. But it looked like. Looked like a 225-inch deer. It looked like, you know what I mean, because the body was so small.
Well, it's like those Texas deer. They
exactly
long, tall, and skinny, and then they just go.
Funny thing about Florida deer, everything is big in Florida except the deer. Dude, we have the biggest coyotes I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
The biggest bobcats I've ever seen in my life. And I've been lucky enough to hunt. Man, Luke Clausen and I used to go to Montana and Wyoming all the time. I've hunted Illinois. I've hunted Oklahoma a bunch. I'm actually going to Maine this year on a moose hunt. I've got to hunt a lot of places. I've never seen coyotes and I've never seen bobcats as big, and wild boars. Dude, we have giant wild boars down here. Like I've never seen, but the deer are small. The deer are they're small. And Florida went to a 3-on-1 side about 4 years ago. And I have seen increase, and I have 3 or 4 places that I hunt down here, run trail cameras on, year round. And I really have seen a difference. Now, once again, they're not giant deer, by any means, but we went from, a lot of spikes and 4 points. And if you saw a basket rack 8, that was a nice deer, to now, I mean, there's just basket rack 8s everywhere. So that conservation end, it actually does help.
I remember seeing my first deer in Florida, and I was shocked coming from Southeast Missouri, Southern Illinois, deer up here. And
no, it
was like, well, that was a deer? You sure?
Yeah, no, it's different. That's for sure.
Well, and when you come hunt Southern Illinois, then it's just got to be crazy for you.
Oh yeah, like I said, I've hunted Southern Illinois a bunch. I killed actually which one? The one on the right of the screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
It only scored 136, but 130-inch deer for an 8-point, that's pretty decent.
For sure.
But on the hoof with the guts in it, because the guy I stay with there in Mount Vernon, even he said, he was like, wow, dude, that's a big, we got to take that down to somebody has had but it weighed 303 pounds with the guts in it.
Jesus.
With the guts in it. That's not dressed. With the guts in it.
That's a heavy deer. Giant.
That's a heavy deer.
It fell out in the field.
Sucker's thick.
And it fell out in the field, and we just drove the truck right up to it, and 3 of us, got in the back of the truck, and we took it to this guy that, he had a scale thing. Wow. Yeah, it's 303 pounds. So
we got a winner.
That was right there in Mount Vernon. Yeah.
We got a winner.
Well, obviously not in town, but, just.
Right.
Hey, we got hunting.
You're sitting in the Starbucks.
We got
right. Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Todd, get a hold of me on Instagram or Facebook. Send me your shipping information. Todd's the winner with 7. Lucky number 7 was the number. Get a hold of me, and I will get a hold of the proper authorities and get that Baitworks giveaway out to you. Congratulations. It's going to be a good one.
Between 1 and 200, and he got 7. That's pretty good.
Yeah. It's impressive. Does the bait fuel, is it in all the net bait products now, or just a select number?
You're asking me something that I may not 100% know the answer to. I know for a fact it's in a lot of them. Okay. As far as all of them, I don't know. I got the B-Bug. I got the Mega Bopper, which don't get me wrong, I like the Big Bopper, but the Mega Bopper, in my opinion, is better. Most of the time. There are times when the Big Bopper is good, but I like the Mega Bopper. Our BF Toad, you got the bait fuel in it. More of the B-Bugs. The Paca Slims, it has that in it. So there's a lot of them. Like I said, once again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they all do, and I don't know that.
Okay. So it's in more than just 1 or 2 of them.
Oh, yeah. No, it's in a lot of them. It might not be in every. Put it this way. I can tell you this with confidence. There's way more that have it than don't.
Okay.
And I know we're working towards all of them having it. And don't get me wrong. You may walk into a bait store and there's some baits that have been on the shelf for a few months that, like you might find some B-Bugs or whatever that don't have it in there. But all the new stuff that we're shipping out, it has it.
Cool. Is that what's your favorite punching bait?
I would say it's a 2-edged sword. So summertime, warm water conditions. I like something what I call it has flappers on it. So it would be the Paca Slim, the 4-inch Paca Slim. Okay. Is my go-to bait for summertime. So like something has a lot of action. In the cooler water times of the year or really pressured fish, the dagger is, dude, it is a dagger. Like I can't tell you how many big ones in the wintertime and stuff I've caught on the dagger. It's amazing. Those little wings on the side of it fold up, it just kind of glides. It doesn't have a bunch of appendages and crazy stuff all over it. It punches really easy. You put it behind a Freedom tungsten weight. I use 1.5 ounces pretty much all the time for punching. Okay. I think that's the biggest weight. 1.5 ounces is the biggest weight that you can use and still have a decent hookup ratio. If you go to 1.75 ounces, 2 ounce, 2.5, the fish will still bite it. There's no reason why the fish don't bite it. They do bite it, but it's such a big weight that you blow the mouth open on the hook set. And as far as the punching rig, like on my hooks, I use the Pro V flipping hook from Trocar.
Okay.
It's kind of a weird little bend, but it seems to peg them really good.
Let me see. Put that back up there again. Let me check it out.
So it's the Pro V. It's got a weird little bend.
Yeah.
They used to call it the Big Nasty, but you can always find it if you go on Trocar's site. It's a TK133. TK133. Well, whether it's an older package that says Big Nasty or the newer package that says Pro V, but it's a TK133. But it has a weird little bend. But I like it for punching. Well, for one, because it stabs their face. But for two, is that it's a slimmer profile. Like the TK130 is just a big J hook, and it sticks. The hook sticks way out from the bait, and it doesn't punch as easy. Where that is kind of more encased or close to the bait, so it makes a little slimmer profile, so it slides in places a little bit easier. Get more bites, man.
Nice.
Snell or not Snell?
Absolutely Snell. Oh yeah, Snell all the way. And anybody that doesn't know what a Snell is, there is a million YouTube videos out there that you can figure out what to do with a Snell knot. But yeah, I encourage everybody. Anything bigger than a 3/4 ounce or even a 3/4 ounce and up, you need to Snell it. Like you will hook way more fish.
Okay. I need to play around with that a little more.
That comes from a guy that's in Florida.
Yeah, you've done it a couple times.
A few days a week.
I mean, anything 3/4 ounce or bigger, I smell it. Underneath that, I just tie a regular, Palomar's fine. Personally, I like a San Diego Jam knot because it's got a cool name.
Yeah, same here. That's my go-to knot.
Yeah, it's got a cool name. But and honestly, I like that there's 3 tag ends because when I slide my bait up over I think those 3 tag ends hold your bait, acts like a little bit of a keeper, and holds your bait up there a little bit better. Yeah, whatever. That's just me.
Cool. Well, man, let's wrap this up, man. You're an hour ahead of us, so I know you got some. You've been running. You need to get some rest.
I'm fixing to go light that grill and get me another cold beer.
There you go, man. There you go. That sounds good. Man, it was cool hanging out with you. Appreciate it.
Man. I had a good time. Let's do it again.
Definitely. How can people get a hold of you?
I'm on all the Facebooks. Whichever one's the one you like, I'm on it. Instabook, Facegram, all that stuff.
Gotcha.
The YouTube, whatever kind of tube you're into, I'm on that too. I'm on all of them.
Go check out your YouTube channel.
JT Kenney Fishing. Plug that into your favorite social media, and it's on there.
Fantastic.
All right, folks. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We're gonna sign out now. We'll be back next week, same time, same place.
Maybe later. Maybe an hour later.
Yeah, be an hour later. So that's all we got for you. See ya.
See you.